We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. Jimmy, James, and Tom are back for more. Like Joey B, we're here for season 4 with Bengal guests and stories not heard before. There's Tony, Mark, and Jamie, as well as our charity, Houty Nation joining from far and wide. Every Sunday night, the guys are back at it live. By the fans, for the fans, from day one, it's time to have some fun. We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. The Bengal boys stop by to drop the feet. Don't get your popcorn ready and take a seat. Season 4 will end with the Lombardi.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. This is a Bengal Jimless version of Bengal Jim and Friends. Jimmy is on special assignment sent by James to secure top-level guests for next week, and we hope to have confirmation and word for them by the end of the show tonight. But we are blessed to be under the steady hands of James steering the ship tonight. And without further ado, to kick us off, here's James.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to, less than 2 weeks before the draft. So that's going to be the majority of the show tonight. We do have several special guests with us tonight, including our man Brian from Deep Fried. We're actually going to go through a mock draft. I don't even know if he knows that yet, Tom, but we're going to go through a mock draft with him. He's going to be the official Duke Tobin of Bengal Jim and Friends show tonight, and we're going to see what Brian would do if he was in Duke's shoes and who he would draft and why. As always, we appreciate everyone tuning in. We may be a little bit out of order tonight because we're waiting on one guest. But with that said, one guest we do have here is a fan of the year, Tom. Let's see, going back to Sean, we've had, of course, Jimmy, Phil, Tony the Tiger. And this year is the first year that the NFL has awarded an international fan of the year. And to much of our dismay, Amy did not win it, our resident Canadian. We had another Canadian win it. Tom, you want to go ahead and do the introduction?
Is he up there yet?
He is ready to go. So I'll let you do the introduction.
Pop him on. Well, from the great white north, where the Bengals have many more fans than we would expect. So it's not just friendly if you visit up there and vacation up there, but obviously on away weekends, it's a great place to watch football. So, John, we practice. I'm going to let you do your last name. But here's the Bengals International Fan of the Year directly from Toronto, Canada. John, please introduce yourself to your fellow fans.
Who they, everyone? I'm John DiGirolamo. You can call me Johnny D from Toronto. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, both James and Tom. I've been exchanging some text messages with Jim as he's enjoying himself right now. So unfortunately, he can't be on today. He's away, but I've had the pleasure of having some good conversations with Jim. So it's been great.
Yeah, you're stuck with the B team, but congratulations, John, on winning the Fan of the Year. Now, where exactly do you live in Canada?
I live in Toronto, right downtown, right in the city. So not too far from Cincinnati, 7.5, 8 hours drive, depending on how heavy your foot is. And I've done that drive plenty of times. And if you're flying, you're 1.5 hours gate to gate.
Now, we've had, as everyone knows, and as I said earlier, lots of other Fan of the Years on. And we've seen different ways where they've informed them that they won. We saw Jimmy brought down to the concourse and surprise. We saw Sean Moore get a box. Let's see. We saw Phil, I think, pretend to do a Christmas skit. I can't remember how they did Tony's, the 2023 Fan of the Year. But tell us how you were informed, John, that you were the International Fan of the Year for the Bengals.
Yeah, that's a good question. I initially received an email from one of the uh, staff members of the team and suggested that we get on a Zoom call to discuss the International Fan of the Year and stated that Chase Brown would be on the call to chat about exciting events that were upcoming in the next couple months. So scheduled the call, jumped on the Zoom, and it was just me and Chase Brown, which was super cool. And Chase is a fellow Canadian. He grew up 2 hours down the street here, so super cool having him on that Zoom call and knowing his story and seeing the success he had towards the end of last year, and excited for what he's going to do this year. And while we were on that call, pretty much we jumped right into it, and he broke the news to me that I was the Cincinnati Bengal International Fan of the Year. So had a feeling going into the call that that's what it was being set up for, and was super excited to have Chase break that news to me on that Zoom call. It was great.
So tell us how the living in Toronto. I assume you grew up there in Ontario province. How did you become a Bengals fan, John?
Yeah, this might date me. I try to think like I'm young and feel like I'm young, but being a Bengals fan since high school in the late 80s, completely different time. Nowadays, kids can watch a game on their phone whenever they want, on tape delay, and do whatever they want. Back then, the only games we were watching on TV were the games of the week. And being so close to Buffalo, it was often watching Buffalo play and whatever the 4 o'clock game was, usually the Cowboys, and then Monday Night Football. But Cincinnati had a really good team back then, and watching the stripes and touchdown celebrations, as a new fan to the sport, it's easy to gravitate towards offensive excitement, which they certainly had back then. And seeing Icky dance in that end zone was certainly a lot of fun. And I became a fan and was heartbroken when they lost to the 49ers, but remained a fan. And it was challenging, not just because of what occurred on the field, but trying to keep up with a team when there's no way to watch it, when you're getting the stats the next day in the newspaper, was very challenging. But times changed, and got a little bit older and had a couple of dollars and was able to start going to watch games live, which I started doing in 2003. 2003 was the first live Bengals game I watched. Was Bengals versus the Seahawks. That was the year Palmer was drafted. Kinda was still playing. It was Marvin Lewis's first year as coach. And one of my best friends is a gentleman by the name of David Taliabu, whose father was cousins with Paul Taliabu, the former commissioner. And Paul set us up with someone in the Bengals. They gave us a whole tour of the stadium. We were in the locker room. We were in Marvin Lewis's office. We were on the field. It was just an incredible trip. Bengals won, beat the Seahawks that day. I think Brian Simmons might have clinched it with an interception late in the game. And it was just a great weekend. We stayed at the same hotel as the players the night before the game, hanging out in the lobby with John Kinna holding my friend's son. And I think the World Series might have been on at that time too, hanging out in the lobby, watching some games with the players. So it was just an incredible experience. And I continued to go every year after that. And then in 2009, became a season ticket holder and have remained a season ticket holder since, going every year except for the COVID years, and also traveling to watch them on the road. Several cities, usually the ones that are closer in proximity, but I've been to Baltimore, Detroit, Buffalo, Cleveland, and then as far as London, England, to watch them play there as well. So it's been a long journey, and I'm grateful to have been on this journey and meet great individuals like yourself and dozens of other Bengals fans. And I'll just give a shout out to the one who I've become closest to, Greg Cooper, who we met at a poker table in Indiana the day before a game, and have remained great friends since. So just want to tip my cap to him.
Well, very good.
John, it is amazing how you can. Go ahead, James.
Okay, we were going to quiz you on how Canadian you were by asking you hockey questions, but Mon had another good idea in here. He has a question, your favorite Rush song, and I'm going to back it up by your favorite Tragically Hip song. So we're going to see how Canadian you are by naming your favorite song from both Rush and the Tragically Hip.
Yeah, with Rush, I'll keep it easy and probably go with Tom Sawyer, but definitely a big catalog to choose from there. Geddy Lee is often at the Jays games, sitting behind home plate. You'll see him with the long hair and the shades on and ball cap, and big Rush fan. Tragically Hip, I didn't realize that their music transcended across borders, but 50 Mission Cap. I'll go with 50 Mission Cap since that's a hockey song about the Maple Leafs and Bill Barilko and the last time they won the cup. So
Bill Barilko. Okay, well, you passed. That's good. Tom, go ahead. Shoot away.
No, just going to mention with John. It is amazing down at the stadium how you can really develop a second family with your season tickets. So the people around you, you get to know all their stories, how their family's doing. Celebrate with them after a win, commiserate afterwards, and then, with texting and so forth, talk to them football all the time. But given, your backstory with the Bengals, tell us about, you've been a season ticket holder that long. How were you with the rebirth when Joe Burrow was drafted, injured, and then our most recent Super Bowl trip?
Yeah, so in the year before Burrow was drafted, I guess leading up to that year, I started to watch a lot of college football and watch a lot of quarterback play because I had a feeling we were going to take one, and watched a lot of Joe Burrow play and was super excited seeing his growth and leadership on the field, and then his Heisman Trophy speech. You realize this kid is special. Knew that he had to be the guy, that he would be the pick. So really excited when he was chosen. Obviously, there's always unknowns. Rookies coming into the league, you don't know if they're truly the guy, but he seemed to have both the intangibles and tangibles necessary to lead a franchise, the way he led LSU to a undefeated season and college championship. When he tore his knee up, he was just starting to ascend. So that was a bit of a kick in the gut and brought back memories of 2005 playoffs. So with Carson Palmer getting his knee destroyed there. So didn't know what was going to happen the year after. And, here's a kid who didn't have a real training camp in his rookie year due to COVID, and doesn't have a real training camp in his second year due to his knee injury. And we started off the season a bit slow. And as the year went on, just started to feel like, hey, something special is happening. Something special is really happening here. And they get to the playoffs, and with each win, getting more and more excited. And they had to play Kansas City in that AFC Championship game, and what a game that was, and what a comeback that was. And we're in the Super Bowl. And I remember that night that they beat Kansas City. Between that night and the next morning, I woke up to close to 100 messages of people congratulating me for making it to the Super Bowl as a Bengals fan, and people that I haven't spoken to since university or high school saying, hey, I'm looking for a Bengals fan to congratulate, can only think of you. So it was an incredible moment. It was very, very exciting. I thought of getting to Los Angeles for that game, but travel at the time was still a little bit complicated cross border with COVID, so I decided to stay home, and really thought that we were going to win it, and was crushed that we didn't. We definitely had a chance. There were a couple calls there late in the game that make you scratch your head, and there's been a couple of calls late in some other games after that make you scratch your head, but we can't change history. I was happy that we made it there, but now it's time to bring home the Lombardi.
We agree with that 100%. One final question before we let you go, John, and Brandon brings us up. Brandon will be one of many from our group who will be at the draft. I believe you will be in Detroit 2 weeks from last Thursday in attendance. And will that be your first draft you're going to be attending?
Yeah, I will be there, and that will be my first draft. Correct.
Cool. That's we've had the opportunity to go to several. It's a cool experience if you've never been. Thankfully, we're not up in the top 5 drafting again this year. Pick 18, which is a perfect segue, as Brian will be up next talking about the Bengals draft. But John, again, congratulations on the award, the first ever International Bengals Fan of the Year award. And stay tuned to social media with Jimmy. He'll be up there with Brian and Brandon and several others. And I'm sure Bengals fans will look forward to meeting you in person. And then when you're in Cincinnati, you'll certainly have to stop by the tailgate and say hello to everyone.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys. It's been a
Hey,
blast.
John,
Thanks for
John.
having me. Take care.
Appreciate
Who day. Take care, guys.
All righty. We didn't butcher his name. He was surprised we knew about the Tragically Hip. And let's keep rolling. This is draft time is exciting. And
give me the light. Give me some light. Here.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jimmy.
am I on? What's up?
We're waiting to talk the draft with Brian. You so rudely interrupted us.
Man, my bad. Bob didn't come on yet?
Bob is not here yet. We
Not
are
yet.
live. John just said hello. He looks forward to seeing everybody in Detroit, and we're ready to rock and roll.
All right. I'm going to text Bob again. All right. He was just texting me about 20 minutes ago, said he was ready. So I'll text him real quick.
Okay, drink a margarita for us.
Cool.
All right. Who day, everybody? Cheers.
All righty, Tom. Let's go ahead and get
The beauty of
our next
the beauty
guest,
of live TV, the combination of live TV and a bar in the Caribbean. I'll tell you.
Oh goodness, let's roll. Tom.
But our next guest is a great friend of the show. James discovered him a few years back, and we all talk with him nonstop. I know I talk with him nonstop and bug him to death. But his knowledge, his following of the draft, and although he is one of us and a Bengals fan and a Bengals follower, his analysis is always fair, consistent, and pretty much on the mark. So really as good as anybody you're going to find out there. And we are very blessed to call him a friend. We call him Deep Fried. Everybody else can call him Brian Bosarge. So second down belongs to Brian. Let's bring him in, James.
All right,
There he is.
Brian. Who day?
Good day, everybody. I think I'd rather be where Jim is. No offense to you guys. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck with the B team tonight, but I was thinking, and Tom kind of segued, is this third or fourth year? I know it's at least 3 years you've been coming on.
It feels like it's maybe the fourth year. Let's just go with that and just say if we're wrong. Who cares? Nobody's going to go back and look anyway.
Hey, you know what, though? If they want, everything's archived. They can go, and you know what? I'm going to put this up. That's a perfect segue. Go to YouTube, smash the subscribe button. You can go see how many years has Deep Fried been coming on with us. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. It's at least at minimum, it's been 3, possibly 4.
Yes, sir. Tom, go ahead and start us off with Brian.
Brian, I mean, you know the mentality of a Bengals fan. Even when times are good, times are great, the sky is falling. The sky is falling because we do it to ourselves, and the sky is falling because the media tells the sky is falling and there is no hope. But we're gonna put you on the spot here in a little bit. We're gonna run through the draft to figure out who will be there. But as you look at the Bengals depth chart, and you know the contracts that are up and not up, and what they need to do, they have transitioned to a team of best player available. But if need meets best player available, who do you like?
It's funny you say that. It's like, because I see the comments over here. No shiny toys. We need trench players. I want Brock Bowers. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I mean, we haven't had a tight end in this offense since Burrow's been here, and he's the best of the best in this class. And if he's on the board at 18, I want it.
Well, short and simple. Do you think there's any way? I mean, I don't know. I sit there at night and roll through 20 mock drafts, and the way we're going to do it here, Does something super crazy going to have to happen, or we're going to have to trade up if we want a realistic shot at getting him, Brian?
I'd say it's about a 30% chance he's on the board right now. It's not the best possibility, but if you get 4 wide receivers go ahead of us, maybe the offensive tackle run starts before the Bengals get on the clock. And I think we're going to have 4 quarterbacks go. Where do the edge rushers start going? How many corners start going? You could see how it could happen. And especially if you see the Jets pass at 10, that's where I think it becomes a much more realistic possibility that Bowers could fall down to 18.
Yeah, I think the NFL Network, listening in the car today, had Bowers going to the Jets at 10, and maybe some Colts talk about him going there as well. But if we can talk tonight about we kind of dove into both the offensive and defensive line last week, Brian. So if we can talk about the wide receiver, secondary, I think there's some other hot positions in this year's draft. Let's talk about wide receiver. We know that the T. Higgins situation is probably going to be around this year. Do you think there's any chance that a wide receiver, Brian Thomas or somebody like that, could be taken in round 1?
I would be shocked if they go wide receiver at 18. Now, 49 or is it 87 is the 3rd round pick? I think those are much more realistic options. I don't think 18, unless something wild happens and someone like Rome Odunze was to come all the way down to 18, which I just don't think is going to happen. I don't know if Brian Thomas Jr. is enough to make them come off of offensive tackle or defensive tackle or even corner or the 30% chance of Brock Bowers.
Tom, go ahead.
You mentioned Brock Bowers. Will stay with the guys that might tumble to them or fall to them. Do you see, and I have seen those mocks that have him falling. The reason I agree with everything you say about him as a player, I just don't list him as a possibility. I don't see a snowball's chance in hell that he's there at 18. But who do you see that might be, say, a top 10 on their board that might be there? I mean, what do they do if, say, a Dallas Turner ends up on the board at 18, and he could be as high as 8, 9, 10 on some people's draft boards?
Oh man, is that going to be will that be a tough sell to the fan base going with the edge rusher 2 years in a row in the first round? I mean, you sell it as best player available for sure. And it very well could be a need. I mean, we haven't seen the drop off in his play yet, but at some point, Father Time's got to catch up with Trey, right? So you kind of maybe that we haven't seen Osai step up yet, or he hasn't been healthy enough. Sam Hubbard he's not that over go get your pass rusher. So if Turner was to fall, maybe you could sell me on Laiatu. I think Laiatu Latu is the best pass rusher in this draft class from UCLA. He just has medical issues, I think, that might keep him down on some boards, or even Jared Verse. I mean, if any of those guys were there, I mean, you could make that argument, and I'd listen, and I'd probably be okay with it at the end of the day.
What's your thoughts on Jared Verse? I thought he had higher draft potential last year. Our gentleman we had on last week thought he helped himself by coming back this year. What's your thoughts on Jared Verse? He's a top 3 pass guy. Do you think he benefited by going back to school this year?
I think so. And all you really have to do is watch his last 2 regular season games this year to get an idea of what he is. Go watch the Florida game where he tackled where he basically drove the offensive tackle back into the quarterback and sacked him with the offensive tackle. And then watch the Louisville game in the ACC championship game where him and their defensive tackle, Braden Fisk, basically just took over that game and won that game for Florida State with their 3rd, 4th, 5th string quarterback, whatever it was they won that game with. Their defense, those 2 players won that game for Florida State. Jared Verse I think he's a top 10 talent in this class, as well as I think Dallas Turner is, and Laiatu Latu are all top 10 talents in this class. And like I said, if they're on the board at 18, the Bengals for sure have to make that consideration.
All right, Brian, let's do this. Let's pop up this draft now and get your thoughts. Again, you're going to get consultations from your two scouts here, James and Tom, and potentially some folks in the chat room that are going to bend your ear. But let's go through as you're Duke Tobin. Obviously, you're well trenched on what needs to happen. And the one thing we didn't talk about, Brian, is your annual week spent at the Reese's Senior Bowl, getting actually to see these players in person, which I think adds a whole nother level of, what type of personality they are, how hard do they go, what's their mentality when the camera is not on them. So I think you have some great input here to help us. I'm going to pop this up on screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. And there's going to be, possibilities here to trade back. We're going to go through them all here and see what you would do, Brian, with the draft here. So here we go. It looks like our players. I guess let's talk about it now. Any chance to? I'm going to bet you're going to say no to Tennessee or Baltimore. So I think you're going to reject both these trades to move back. Correct?
Correct.
All right, we're going to reject both of these. And to our right, lots of tackles there. Brian Thomas, who we talked about, is available. You see Byron Murphy there. I don't think they're probably going to drop any further than that. But looking at this board right now, Brian, I assume it's between Troy and Amarius Mims, or am I missing something?
I'm not taking Troy Faltano here because unless he's taking Cordell Volson's spot at left guard. Because a lot of the NFL people, and I think probably half the teams in the league are going to project him inside, despite the fact he was starting left tackle for Washington this year. So I'm not going to consider him here. Basically, this is down to three players for me with how this board came out for us. Amarius Mims, the offensive tackle from Georgia, and the two defensive tackles, Johnny Newton and Byron Murphy. Newton and Murphy both are pass rushing interior offensive tackles. I think Newton has shown more on tape for me than Murphy has, although they're very close. But with the board having fallen the way it has, and I see Nate Wiggins there, the 24th ranked player. I know that's who Jeff Hobson had them drafting in that media mock draft here the other day. So that's, if Hobson's saying it, it's something that probably needs to be considered by everybody, right? That corner is definitely in play. But for me, with this board stacked the way it is, I would go with Amarius Mims, the tackle from Georgia. He's started at right tackle for the Dogs, which is where he would be here, but he's only started 8 games in his career at Georgia. So this might actually be the best case scenario for him to come here, sit behind Trent Brown, learn, be that swing tackle as a rookie in case an injury comes up on the left or the right side, and he can come in and play if need be. But if not, you learn from a former All-Pro and Trent Brown for a year, then you take over next year. I think I would go with Amarius Mims, the offensive tackle from Georgia.
Brian, as we speak of Mims, and that's actually somebody James and I were communicating as the college bowl season was there, and some of the scouting came out on him. James pointed him out to me, and we really liked him. I remember him from playing against Ohio State. One thought here is, the Bengals had this situation in 1980. They were pretty void on the offensive line. They had a couple of young guys coming in, late round draft picks who were going to end up being stars. Mike Wilson from Georgia at right tackle had a young guy that was transitioning from tackle to guard, and Max Montoya. Blair Bush was solid at center. Dave Lapham, one of the better guards in the league. Monster hole at left tackle. Took a guy that I think started in his senior year one game, and that was the Rose Bowl, in Anthony Munoz. It's so difficult to forecast injuries. Anthony was banged up as banged up could be in his college career. And then I think maybe missed one start all decade after being drafted by the Bengals. But, Mims is set up to be a right tackle stud physically. He's like a slightly bigger Joe Walter, incredible wingspan. He can be good against the run. He probably needs to improve on that. Any rookie needs to adjust to the NFL, especially in our division. going up against TJ Watt, going up against Myles Garrett twice a year. But like you say, it'll even be better with him having a year potentially to sit. And Lord knows this team needs depth on the offensive line.
Let me play. Go ahead, Brian.
You go ahead, James.
I was gonna throw a wrench into this. We're gonna draft Mims here, but look who was drafted right in front of us by Jacksonville. The one wide receiver that you mentioned. So let's say Jacksonville drafted Byron Murphy, and that leaves the wide receiver from Washington on the board and Mims. Do you still take Mims?
Probably, but man, I don't know if I wouldn't start looking at maybe somebody else in a trade down, maybe different from the ones that were offered, But if Odunze was there, you have to think that there would be some. I would say Buffalo at that point is probably calling you with a lot to come up from 28 because they so desperately need another wide receiver now. So that's where I think a trade back would come if maybe the fourth quarterback was to fall this far for some reason. I don't think they will, but that to me is where you start looking at, because then you can get more and then you can take all those extra picks and start moving up and attacking guys on day 2 and 3. Like we've seen them do that in the past. We just don't see them do that on day 1.
Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and make that pick. We're going to draft Amarius Mims, and we are going to roll into round 2, which will be the 49th selection. Oh, our 2 trade offers, one going back 5 spots with the Browns and one going back 8 spots with the Buccaneers. Any of these?
Let's play it straight.
I can't trade with the Browns anyway.
Okay.
Just on principle.
Yeah, they worry about us. They want the best for us, don't they?
Yeah.
And we're going to reject Tampa Bay. So looking at the board, running back. Now, the gentleman we had last week was very high on the defensive tackle for Clemson. It looks like the one thing that blows my mind here, it looks like Cooper Beebe is off the board, the guard, who's high on a lot of people's boards. So seeing what pick in front of us, he went the Kansas State guard. What do you see here, Mr. GM Brian, that you like here for our round 2, day 2 pick?
See, it starts to become the issue when I'm thinking of defensive tackle, because you signed Sheldon Rankins and you've got BJ Hill still around. Those are more of your pass rusher defensive tackles. What we don't have on staff right now is a pure nose, right? And I just don't think you're going to get that in this class outside of Tavondre Sweat, and I just don't think you can take him anymore because of the DWI and all that. He may not even be on the board anyway. But to me, outside of him, the next pure nose is McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M, and that's a day 3 pick. So, but if you want to add depth to that defensive tackle position, I think you look at someone like Rook or Horhero from Clemson or Chris Jenkins from Michigan. I don't like Leonard Taylor III from Miami. I think he's a bit puffed up here. Michael Hall from Ohio State is interesting as he's a high upside player. And if you're taking him, you're along with Amarius Mims, you are basically shooting for the stars because Michael Hall, I think his best is ahead of him as well. But he looked really good at Senior Bowl, unblockable at times as well. Or Horhero was supposed to play at the Senior Bowl, but his agent opted him out, so he did not. But I still like him in this case. Got to get a defensive tackle. I don't know what tight ends are still available here. I don't know.
Looks like the gentleman, Sinet's here.
I do like Ben Sinnott. I think he's a high upside athlete. I don't know that the Bengals would value that here at pick 49. I think they would go with the more stable position at defensive tackle. So that's why at this point I would go with Rook or Horhero.
We say let's do what we did. Jacksonville looks like it has the same draft board as we do, needing linemen, need receivers. If Cooper Beebe was there, would you go back-to-back offensive line picks?
I would, but I don't know that the Bengals would, because they feel stubborn to me with Cordell Volson. It's like everybody else sees it that he's the weakest link in the chain, but they don't want to push him or bring in any competition at all. So that's why I don't understand
that. Is Zach Frazier already gone?
He appears to be. Let me get this pulled up here. Yeah, he went 46 to the Bears. McConkey's another one.
You know, but yeah, Brian, with your thoughts on defensive tackle, though, pardon me for interrupting. People seem to just, they see that DT and no problem, we'll get him. But there's a big difference between that 3-technique defensive tackle and a pure nose tackle that can help eat up the run. And again, you look at our division, you can't get to the Super Bowl if you don't win your division, or at least have a darn powerful wild card. Are there options if we go 3-technique here? Are there options for nose tackle a little on? I know there are a couple of guys they like. I know there are some character concerns with the young guy from Texas A&M. But, can that still be addressed later?
It's just not a whole lot of those guys in college football, period. I think the game's just not set up that way anymore. Like I said, you've got T'Vondre Sweat from Texas. You've got McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M. And later on, and I mean, like, there's Evan Anderson from Florida Atlantic, I think is probably a day 3 guy. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Bengals had him in for a 30 visit. So they may be thinking about that on like rounds 5, 6, 7 with a guy like Evan Anderson and going with the 3-tech early and then coming back, doubling up at the position with someone like Evan Anderson at nose later on.
All right, we're going to draft the defensive tackle, another Clemson guy off the board to us, and we are going to move on to round 3 here. See if we get any trade options. And again, I find it very interesting. 2 guys that were on our radar went the spot in front of us to Jacksonville. I'm not sure if we're going to drop back 21 spots. No. I'm going to reject that, and that's way too much as well. So looking at our Pro Football's big board here, looking at positions, Mason Smith we see here is a guy that brought in. Is it too early to look running back? Is this also maybe, do we go tackle again with the kid out of Notre Dame? Johnny Wilson, I think, is a name that's pointed out. What does GM Brian do here?
I'd be looking at some of the tight ends. I'd be looking at some corners here. I would have loved Chris Abrams-Drain, who went 1 spot ahead there. He is such a highly productive guy. Had something like he's had 7 career interceptions. He's had double-digit pass breakups the last 2 years. You tested well. So, yeah, at this point, I mean, is running back in play? I mean, they've got I don't know what the contract the contract for Zach Moss was, probably essentially a 2-year deal. You got Chase Brown, who I'd like to see get more looks this year as well. Receiver wise, this could be in play. I'd love to see someone like Ricky Pearsall from Florida be in play here. I don't know. He may have already gone. See, T'Vondre Sweat has fallen down to 93 on their rankings as well. People are starting to adjust to that. I'll tell you what, go back at 98 right there. I think that's who I'm going to target here because Mike Hilton is getting up there, right? We may have to start thinking about a future nickel here. And Mike Sainristil from Michigan may be the best pure nickel DB in this class. And it's something like that, I believe, is something that if he were on the board here at pick 80, I think that's who the Bengals would maybe look to something like that. And they've liked those big schools to target from. So Sainristil is a guy I like here at pick 80 more than some of these other corners. Like I like DJ James from Auburn, Oregon transfer. He's local here to Mobile as well. So is Chris Abrams-Drain for that matter. So they played local high school football here around me. So I've seen those guys going all throughout the process. But I think Sainristil is a guy I would target here at pick. Roger Rosengarten, but zero chance he's still on the board at 80. That's not happening. So that's why I just even ignored that. But yeah, I would go with Sainristil here if I were the Bengals.
I agree with the cornerback pick. Three DJs. What? DJ Turner, DJ. Who's the other one that I'm missing?
He's gone. DJ Reader.
Ivy, and three DJs in their backfield. So you want to go with the Michigan cornerback right here at pick 80. Tom, you were going to say something?
No, just DJ Reader. We just lost him too.
No, I was saying DJ Turner and DJ Ivy as our other
right.
DJs in the secondary. But yeah, DJ Reader gone. Correct. I'm going to reject those trades. Interesting. Johnny Wilson still on the board. The defensive tackle who the Bengals brought in still on the board here.
Mason Smith.
Yep, he is there. Don't be a homer and draft Spencer Rattler, Brian.
No, I'm not crazy, man. I'm not crazy. I like Spencer Rattler though, and I think he's got starter upside in the league. But obviously not on this team. This team, the way the NFL is now structured itself, it's a you're going to have two quarterbacks on your roster now because of the new rule that's in place, where you can basically bring up a practice squad quarterback every single week to be the emergency quarterback. I'd seriously doubt you're going to see teams carrying three quarterbacks on the 53 going forward. And the Bengals really have no need to now that they have the best, cheapest backup in the league, which ain't Browning. So Rattler would not be playing. Johnny Wilson, though, is going to be the pick here because I think he can play two spots on this offense. He can be a big outside wide receiver. He's 6'6", 231, ran, where's it at here? Ran 4.52, has 35-inch arms, but had a 37-inch vertical and a great three-cone. Tested as a 96% athlete in this wide receiver class. He can get the 50-50 ball. He's had some drop issues, I'll say that. But I think he could end up being essentially like what Mike Gesicki plays, who the Bengals signed to a one-year deal, is more of that big slot wide receiver, a mismatch for some of these safeties and linebackers that he can get on. And I think that presents some kind of some issues there for other teams. Alden Tate with speed, I see in the comment section. That's a good way to put it. Played at the same school. So, yeah, Johnny. I like Johnny Wilson here at the 97th pick for the Bengals.
Two picks earlier, we see the Chiefs getting Blake Fisher. If he were somehow to fall, would you go get two offensive tackles in this draft, Brian?
No, if I'm double dipping at offensive tackle, it's going to be later. I'm just going to take an high upside guy later on in the draft. If I've already taken a tackle in the first round, or one that can play guard, I don't know that I would take Fisher.
Right. Just going to reject these trades. Get to the top. Looks like lots of running backs still available. Tight end is still available. Jalen right there. I've seen that name thrown out a bunch. What being an SEC guy, what's your thoughts on Jalen Wright, Brian?
Jalen Wright is one of 6 running backs I think could be the first running back taken off this board. They're all basically interchangeable at this point. Between him and Corum and Marshawn Lloyd, Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Braylon Allen, any of those guys could be running back 1 off the board. Would not shock me at all. But Jalen Wright has home run speed, like legit, like 4.3 speed. He's fast. He can break one in an instant. I see Brandon Coleman there, and that one intrigues me as a guard tackle combo. Dane Brugler from The Athletic has him as his number 9 overall tackle. I have him as a guard in this class. What he is an athlete. He was the best athlete amongst all offensive linemen in this draft class. The top. He is the best of the best athletically. So he intrigues me here. Jalen Wright, if on the board at 115, would intrigue me. Dylan Lobby is an older player, but he had 290-something receiving yards this year against Central Michigan out of the backfield. I love a running back that can catch. So that wouldn't be bad either. Makai Wingo still on the board. Is McKinley Jackson still on the board?
He was the last round. Let's see. I believe he has been taken.
Okay. So that would be that nose tackle that we had talked about earlier. Were he there? So, yeah, I mean, for the sake of argument, I would say if all available, I would take Brandon Coleman here just to, I mean, fourth round guard to compete with Wilson and let them duke it out. And that's the thing. I think that's where I'd go here and let's start getting more athletes up front. That's been a bugaboo for the Bengals for the longest time is they don't draft athletes up front, and we've eliminated that now with our 2 offensive line picks. If we take Coleman here, we've added 2 athletes with him and Amarius Mims.
I assume he was a left guard in college, Brian?
He was I think he was a tackle for TCU.
Okay, got it. All righty, we are rolling right along. Tom, anything you want to add while we wait on this pick?
Well, we've kind of beat around the bush on the running back thing, and I know Brian had mentioned, and all Bengal fans wanted to see more Chase Brown, and boy, once he started getting involved in the game plan every week, he showed why we were so excited to see him. But Brian, my concern with Chase if the situation comes up where he gets a lot of snaps is I don't know if he's built for a 18-game NFL season. He might be a little more situational. But I worry about him getting in there. I think we need a between the tackle rammer, somebody that can break a tackle while hitting the hole hard. He doesn't need to have 4.3 speed. He doesn't need to be Gale Sayers, but he has to be able to hit that hole hard. It looked like Joe last year, and I don't know if this was a line. I don't know if it was him, but there were times it looked like Joe Mixon did not hit the line very quickly.
Right, but that's kind of what you signed Zach Moss for, right? It was kind of be more of that this offseason, and Chase Brown's going to be your home run hitter because we saw that speed. To me, any running back you're drafting is immediately competing with Chris Evans for that last running back spot because I think Travion Williams is your core special teams guy, and that's the reason he was brought back, not necessarily as a running back. Jaheim Bell on the board intrigues me because – he's just another play toy for the offense. He's a 6'1" tight end in name only. 2 years ago, he was South Carolina's leading rusher. Their running back depth just got hit so hard that they basically, okay, Jaheim Bell, he's the best athlete on the team. You're now our running back. And he rushed for 500 yards and something like 7 touchdowns at South Carolina. Then he's like, I don't want to run the ball anymore. He transferred to Florida State, ended up working out. But he's a field stretcher at tight end, but he's probably be more of an H-back here. I just don't think that the Bengals would have any I'm not going to say any use for that, but I just don't think that that's something that they would look for. Isaac Garindo's another home run hitting running back, was the fastest one at the combine at that position and one of the best athletes here. So we've hit guard, we've hit tackle, we've kind of hit tight end with Brandon Wilson. We drafted a corner.
Your name, Brian, getting a lot, but the one running back that you didn't mention was the esteemed kid out of Notre Dame. Is he too old for what you're looking for in a running back, just simply by age?
I just don't know that if he's not already on the roster, right? I just feel like he's a younger version of what you already have, or maybe not even younger. But I mean, he's a third-year player, but he just 4.7, 140. At the combine. I don't know if I want that. He just didn't do enough for me to make me say I got to have him on my football team.
And what's your thoughts on Victor?
So with this pick, I said I would love to see if that one of the nose tackles were available. This might be a big reach with Evan Anderson here on the board, but he would be a guy I would kind of look at as we get to this point in the draft, round 5, round 6, round 7, because these to me are guys that are you're either taking lottery tickets on or, they're just going to be special teams guys. And like I said, the Bengals have 10 draft picks. Are all 10 of these guys making the roster? I don't know. I didn't think all 10 would make the roster last year, and they did. So that was kind of surprising. Does that happen again? I'm not sure. Ray Davis, running back out of Kentucky, is interesting. He was a stud at Vanderbilt. He was a stud at Kentucky this past year. Catches the ball well. Just did not run overly well at the combine at this point. So that's kind of where I would be at with Ray Davis.
Brian, I know we just grabbed a guard, but the type of guys that Zach Taylor seems to like in his locker room, boy, Zach Zinter from Michigan is precisely that guy. And I think he could start on the right side. He could start on the left side in short order. And the other point, if you wouldn't mind touching on both of them, Evan Anderson, the Bengals visited with him at the combine. The Bengals went down to Florida Atlantic to take a look at him. And the Bengals had him in for a top 30. I just wonder, we've had Duke Tobin on, and he vowed to us every time we draft, whoever we take is higher than the number we have. They don't reach. The guy is always above where they draft. I don't know where they rank Evan Anderson, but boy, he would be the body type is exactly what they need if he's ready to play.
100%. I mean, it would be based off of the projections there, that would be a reach, but that doesn't mean that's where the Bengals would have him ranked. Now, I want to go back to what you said about Zach Zinter, because they do value the captains, right? And this is a redshirt pick because he will not play, I don't believe, in the 2024 season. But is Alex Kappa, is his contract up here maybe after this year, maybe it's out after next year. This could be one of those draft and stash guys like you see in the NBA where they draft the European player and you don't see him for a year. It could be situation like that. And when you have 10 draft picks, this is what you can do. You can take a punt on a pick and wait until next season and see what you have. The Bengals have done it in the past. Not saying it's always worked out for them, but they have done it in the past. I like the idea of Zach Zinter here in the 5th round, because I do believe that Evan Anderson, with one of our 2 6th-round picks, will be on the board.
Okay, let's go ahead and take him. Is there any chance he could slide to center, or is he strictly going to be a guard at the next level?
It's a chance. I mean, I'm not saying it's a skill set he possesses right now, but you never know. I mean, with a little work.
All righty, we're going to slide into round 6 here. Pick 194 will be our next pick. And for those that are just joining us, GM Brian picked Amarius Mims round 1, defensive tackle out of Clemson round 2, defensive back out of Michigan round 3, Johnny Wilson wide receiver round 3. I think that was our second, 3rd round pick there, Johnny Wilson, Brandon Coleman, and Zach Zinter, 2 interior offensive linemen in rounds 4 and 5. So here we are in round 6. Do we look back at defensive tackle, or do we finally get that running back?
Yeah, we've reached a point now where we're going to draft Evan Anderson and go ahead and get him. Because, like I said, it's too much smoke around that to not be fire with them liking him, right? So. Okay. Yeah, you're going to get a bad grade or whatever from PF or PFN on this one, but who cares? This is the guy they want. It's a 6th-round pick. You go get your guy.
All righty, let's get out of there. We've got that true nose tackle. I think that's how you guys have been talking about him. Tom, you agree with that pick?
Absolutely. It's not like I watched a lot of Florida Atlantic ball this year. It's just the highlights, but. Again, just like Brian said, when the Bengals spend time and a lot of time with a guy, they like something. So hopefully we haven't let the genie out of the bottle, but I have a feeling they like him. Certainly would be a quality day 3 pick.
Alrighty, I guess looking at the board, we've got the offensive linemen, we've got the interior offensive linemen, we've got our defensive tackles, we've got that cornerback. So running back, tight end, or are you strictly looking best player available now, Brian?
I think if there's any edge rushers available, that would be something they would look at here as well. But possibly, I think running back is a situation they would look at here. I'm not a big Carson Steele guy. Decameron Richardson is a hell of an athlete and somebody I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on at this point in the draft. He is one of the best testing corners in this class. He is has 32 and 3/8 inch arms, 6'2", 188. So he's got nice length, 4.34 speed, and was great shuttle times. 86% athlete. He's a guy I would consider here, just giving us an outside corner along with the inside corner and Sainer Steele that we went there and just kind of doubling up on that. I didn't see Vidal is interesting at running back. So is I don't know if he's still available. Rasheen Ali from Marshall tore his biceps at the Senior Bowl, but had probably the best practice I've ever seen for a running back at the Senior Bowl. The one practice he was there, and he ended up tearing his bicep late in that first day. But he's a very highly productive. He finds the end. He just gets in the end zone. He's big time production at Marshall. He's a guy there, but I feel like we need to get a guy here for the special teams and to go down there and help that. And that's where go back up to the top there. And that's where I think someone like Etafuan Olafoshio, the linebacker from Washington, one of the best coverage linebackers I saw at the Senior Bowl this year. He's going to be a run and chase special teams guy, backup linebacker type. You brought back Davis Gaither on a 1-year deal, so you're going to need some depth there at some point, and they've dealt with injuries here the last few years. I think that Olafoshio is a guy that Darren Simmons will love to get in his to get on his units, and this is the time of the draft. You take these guys, and always leaves the fans scratching their heads. Why are we taking this guy? You know, he didn't, which Olafoshio did start, but I'm just saying you start seeing questions of why are we taking this guy? It's special teams, guys. That's why.
All right, we're going to make that pick, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe 2 7th-rounders left here.
Yeah.
Again, 224, 2 later. So
yeah,
again,
is there any way you could just search the running backs? Is there a tab for that?
There sure is. Give me 1 second here.
Yep, there we go.
And your wish. There we go.
Because I'm an irony guy here, and I just feel like it would be ironic if the Bengals used the pick they got from Joe Mixon to draft another running back. And Dejon Edwards from Georgia is a guy I like, but I don't know what his upside is. Jace McClellan from Alabama is a high upside guy, in my opinion. But for the sake of argument here, and because I talked about him as well, I'm going to suggest Rasheen Ali from Marshall, just to get that production, get that speed, home run hitter ability. And if he has to sit for 6 weeks or whatever before he's active, fine.
All righty. 1 pick left. Do we go punter, or do we get him as an undrafted free agent?
You know better than ask Brian about taking a specialist.
No, just don't do it. I can't in good conscience ever suggest these things. As great as Evans worked out, I would have never drafted Evan McPherson. So I'm not the best guy for that. Let me look at just the pure tight ends here and see what's on the board. So I can try to just grab an athlete here, a dart throw in the 7th round. And the pickings is slim there. That's just gross. Okay. We're not doing that. So yeah.
What kind of centers are left?
Centers.
What kind of centers are left?
Oh, there's a guy, Kingsley Egwakun from Florida, has three-position versatility there. Can back up the guards, can back up the center spot. Would compete, I would say, with Trey Hill for a roster spot there. Push him and let the best man win if you were to bring in him. C.J. Hansen from Holy Cross is another good guy there. Nick Gargiulo is listed as center. I wouldn't let him snap to my grandmother. No chance. Absolutely no chance.
About your Gamecocks like that, Brian? I would never do that to an orange guy.
You said it when I came on. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And there's a comment there, Matt Lee. Matt Lee's a stud. There's no way he's the 325th best player in his class. He's not going to be on the board in the 7th round. That's not realistic to me. Egwakun is realistic, though. And he's a guy, if we're going to target a center, or hey, we hit the – can't say we didn't hit the offensive line in this draft, right?
We hit it hard. Tom, I think, would be very happy with that. And let's do a quick recap. I don't think it's going to give us the grade, but we didn't trade up, didn't trade down, kind of stood pat. And, I like what we saw, Brian. Would you be happy with this if from 2 weeks from tonight, this is who the Bengals are bringing into Cincinnati and introducing them to the media?
Yeah, no doubt about it. It would be fun to look at this because, like I said, you see some pieces there that can help Burrow immediately with Johnny Wilson. He can be, push something that maybe they don't have right now. Mims as the future starter at right tackle, Sanier Steele, the future starter at nickel, or Horhero. Will go immediately into the rotation and has some pass rush upside. Brandon Coleman can attempt to push Cordell Volson at the left guard spot and may have a chance to win that spot out of the chute just because he's more athletic. Zach Zenner, I think maybe he's the right guard starter 2 years from now. Evan Anderson, again, rotation guy, would be immediately in that rotation at nose with Tufele and some of the other guys they've got on the roster now. Ulofoshio is going to probably be a staple of the special teams. And Ali, again, probably a candidate for pup because of the biceps tear, but would have a chance to be that fourth running back on the roster, maybe even the third. And Egwakun, again, would battle with Trey Hill to be a reserve guard center.
Well, we appreciate that, Brian. And whatever we argued earlier, 3 or 4 years, you've been coming on. We've never done that. And I talked to Tom last week. I was like, what about if we had Brian do that? He said, yeah, let's do that. I think that would be a good idea. So I don't know if you've done that on any of the other shows that you've been.
Well, it's funny you say that because I believe on Tuesday, simultaneously on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thedraftcountdown, I will have a mock draft simulator video where I can do just the Bengals. And that same day at draftcountdown.com, that same draft will be in Word form and where I kind of articulate why I took who I did with all 10 of the Bengals picks.
Well, Tom, what am I forgetting? Brian's been more than gracious with his time here this evening. As always, we enjoy having him on. Mon's happy, 6 trench players. I'm looking up in the chat. Jeff says lots of big uglies, and I think that's probably the gist of the fan base. 1, protect Joe, and 2, stop the run in the loaded AFC North.
Well, the good thing is
I'm not sure we stopped.
You take 4 stabs at it. Hopefully 2 of them hit, right?
Swing for the fences. Tom, what you were going to say something?
I'm not sure we stopped one tonight with this draft. That's was an Achilles heel last year and might be this year. Hopefully the offense will be clicking and everybody will feel like they have to throw the ball on us. But no, I think that's a solid draft, and it's fun to get Brian's perspective, and we will definitely. I'm sure everybody will make a big effort to tune in with him Tuesday night, and hopefully we can check in with him after the draft and get his thoughts then.
One final question, Brian, before we let you go. As we said earlier, you're a regular at the Reese's Senior Bowl. What was the tone, the attitude? Was it similar to years past where you see a higher level of talent? We've heard the offensive tackle draft is deep this year. What if you could give us a 60-second recap of the Senior Bowl this year? You being boots on the ground, what did you see?
This was probably in the last 6 years. I'd say at minimum the best roster I've seen at the Senior Bowl, top to bottom. Unfortunately for the Senior Bowl game itself, like 40 of those guys decided they didn't want to play in the game on Saturday, so that kind of became a bit of a sticky situation there. But practice-wise, the first 2 days of practice was great. The offensive tackle class, the offensive line class in general, interior and offensive tackle, stood out. The running back stood out in a way at practice I don't think I've ever seen, considering this running back class isn't considered great. And we saw some great corners down there, like with Quinyon Mitchell and from Toledo, who, if he's available at 18, I'm listening.
Well, we appreciate it, Brian. DraftCountdown.com, where they can go to the website, Deep Fried Draft on Twitter. Again, we appreciate you coming on annually every year leading up to the draft. So much fun. Thanks for doing something a little bit different.
Hold on, James. We forgot the
Okay.
annual question for him. Brian, how are those Syracuse recruits looking this year?
Grant Brown, straight from the
I gotta tell you, not great, Bob. Not great. We have 4 guys on our watch list. We have about as many guys from SUNY Cortland as we do from Syracuse this year. Syracuse is going to go 0 for the draft this year. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, no, we knew that. We're just talking about Fran Brown now, the great recruiter we got from your SEC rivals, Georgia. So future's bright. Not so much in the draft.
Yeah. They did the smart thing there with because they need it can't be easy to recruit there. I'm just sorry. It's Western New York. No offense, but
Central. Buffalo's Western.
Close enough. You get sun 1 month a year, man. I mean, what do you want me to tell you?
That's why we have a
one day.
New dome up there. All right, enough bashing on Syracuse. Thanks, Brian. Good luck to your Gamecocks, and we appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
All right.
That's a tradition, James. That's a tradition to
fun tradition.
Ask him how your Orange are going to get drafted. We always ask that.
Couple of years. But we did screenshot Brian's draft, so we're going to look at that as our show following the draft. See how many you got right. I thought that was solid. Again, just addressing those trenches. We see it in the comments, and a lot to do. I think a lot of good players are going to be available. As Brian said, it's a lot of talent in this draft. I have faith in Duke that the right thing's going to happen. And speaking of guys in the trenches, let's have this guy do the 2-minute warning.
Hey, folks, it's time for the 2-minute warning.
Perfect. I hope we find a young Joe Walter in about 10 days. And we might win games.
I'm going to go first, Tom, because I just got a lot of housekeeping to do, and I'm going to let you end it. Jungle Jam, as everyone knows, Saturday, July 20th. The link is there to get your tickets. That's actually the charity link. That's not the ticket link, but you can go there and buy tickets. Something we announced, or we haven't even announced today. It's on the Jungle Jam page. Our first silent auction item, thanks to our friends at Harrah's in Kansas City. 2 suite tickets and up to 3 nights accommodation at the Harrah's Casino in Kansas City for whenever that date's going to be, whenever the NFL announces their schedule. Thank you to Harrah's Kansas City for donating that. That is a silent auction item that is now live on the page. So go there and feel free to bid. That'll be announced Saturday of Jungle Jam. Joe Burrow Foundation, a big part of what we're going to do at Jungle Jam. It's taking forever to load here tonight. But we do have the Year of Tickets raffle. You can go there, $100. Let me pop up that flyer. Somebody's going to win tickets for every preseason game and every regular season game at Paycor Stadium in Section 158, the Bengal Gym section, row 19. So great seats right near the aisle. $100 donation to the Joe Burrow Foundation. We'll either announce that winner at Jungle Jam on Saturday, July 20th, or 2 weeks before the first regular season. That way you have plenty of time to plan accordingly. One other housekeeping thing, there are some spots left for the cornhole tournament. Let me find that graphic here. So what we're going to do is a double elimination, 32 teams, sweet Bengals prize pack, in addition to cool trophies made by our friend Ron Boyle. We want to thank the Houday ladies, Lisa, for helping run that portion of the day. And then a couple weeks ago on social media, we had a post about our friends at FOCO, the short talls, I think. I just call them jorts, Bengal jorts with tiger stripes. We announced we were going to have a winner. So we did a randomizer before we went on the show. And we'll be sending a note. That winner is, pop the name up here, is, let me see.
Emily Stewart.
There you go. So congratulations to her for following and putting the message there. So we'll be reaching out to her, and she'll be getting a cool pair of those short talls, courtesy of our friends at FOCO. And I think that was all that was on the to-do list. Again, a Loft Hotel, our host hotel for Jungle Jam, right there at Newport on the levee. So exciting show tonight. As always, we appreciate everybody that tuned in. We saw some people who've been off for a couple weeks join us tonight. Brian was great, and congratulations to our fan of the year. Tom, go ahead and end it for us tonight.
Well, apologies to everybody. We had been in contact with Bob Johnson, as recently as 20 minutes before the show. So we assumed there was some kind of technical snafu. But I think the good news, James, is I'll probably get yelled at for saying this too early, but Bob is scheduled and has agreed to join us in person at Jungle Jam and Jungle to the Hall 4 portions. So we will be able to see and talk and visit with him there. Next week, we can go ahead and announce we have scheduled Dave Lapham. First and foremost, it's draft week, and you get to hear from Lap first right here, and we'll have another guest to confirm in the coming days. But it's going to be a solid hour as we kick off draft week and lead up to the draft on Thursday. So again, thank you for spending. Please.
Let me say one thing before you end it. Chris has a point here. If we brought VIP tickets, can we still bid in person at the event on items? The answer is yes. Even if you're not, say you're from out of town, you can't make it in. That is the nice part of this platform. You can bid on the items and not be in attendance at Jungle Jam. I know that was brought up last week as well. So you do not have to be there. We invite you. If you cannot make a Jungle Jam, go to that One Cause page, which is all over our social media. You can bid on items. That Bengals ticket package in Kansas City suite package is on there. The raffle prizes, cornhole, everything is on there. There's a 50-50 raffle that you can bid on and not even be at Jungle Jam. So lots of cool things. Again, 100% of those proceeds will go to charity. There's the Joe Burrow Foundation, the Village of Mercury, whatever, Ted Karras' Ken Anderson Alliance, Revive Foundation. So many charities are going to be helped because of that event, and it's because of your support. So sorry about that, Tom. Go ahead and
No, actually, it worked out perfect that way, because confirmation that other guests next week will be scheduled. Daniel Alameda, who is Malik Wright's wingman, and sort of his draft specialist on that show. So a big first star night with Daniel and Dave Lapham next week. But more than anything, thank you to all of you for spending Sunday evening with us and talking Bengals football. There are a lot of different ways for you to get your Bengals news and listen to opinions, and for you to honor us every week means a lot. It means we keep doing it. And like I said, it's a lot of fun. It means so much being out and about in town when somebody comes up and wants to talk football too. So with that, we will see you next Sunday night as we start draft week. So keep up all the positive talk on social media, and Houday.
Houday, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Good night.